Welcome to a quick sharp review of Saga Compendium 1 by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples. I'm going to be talking a bit about the structure of the physical release, and then a bit about the book itself, and then lastly what music I would recommend listening to while you're reading it. This thing is an absolute monster, okay? So this book, you can see from the spine there, what I'll do, I'll compare it to a Berserk deluxe edition. Same size, right? But these Berserks, I think, have about 700 or so pages. This thing has about 1,400 pages, and because it's a Western comic, it takes a lot longer to read than manga, because there's less action scenes where there's not much talking and stuff. There's much more dialogue. Anyway, so this is a paperback with a lot of pages in it, and a lot of issues of the original. It includes 1 to 54 here, and you can see that there's this crease here that happened when it got delivered to my house. It was just sitting there for a while in the packaging before I opened it, so I didn't realise. But it's something that I wanted to illustrate about these editions. The paper is very thin, not only just in here, but there was a lot of sort of bent pages that I ironed out. They look pretty good now, but this paper, super thin, right? It's like glossy. It's like a little bit glossy, but I've never felt like I was going to rip a comic book like I have when I'm reading this, particularly because it's so thick and heavy. And usually that's not a major issue for me. I like omnibuses because it's sort of a cost-efficient way of getting a good series. But and it was $60 for all of this. It took me ages to read through it all. But this paper, very thin, and you can sort of already see that bleed through coming through. Especially like on sort of the wider pages. Yeah, you can see there, like you can see all that writing, even when it's placed there thin. But again, hard to complain when there's this much content for like a very, very low price. So I believe you can get this sort of in deluxe editions or like hardback that are sort of smaller versions, but they're planning on doing 2 compendiums, which is, one half of the series and then another half of the series. The series is still ongoing, and then I assume the compendium will be released when the series is finished. So Saga is about this couple, and basically they're from 2 different alien species who have been fighting this war for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they fall in love and they have a baby. And it's sort of like the first time that anybody's had, or that we know of, that anybody's had a baby between these 2 races that are supposed to hate each other. There's a lot of characters in this, and there's a lot of different storylines that all relate around these 2, and them, being on the run from all these people who want to use them and their daughter for political gain because of this ongoing war. It's sort of like Game of Thrones, I guess, in that regard, of all these different characters with interlocking stories. But I would say it's sort of like Game of Thrones in the way that the story sort of changes rapidly, and the author's not afraid to, I guess, kill off characters and make major changes to the plot, which is really exciting and sort of keeps you guessing where the series is going to go. I'm trying not to go too far into it because I don't want any spoilers, and also there's some explicit material in it. So it's from like Game of Thrones from that point of view, but the tone is very different. The tone is more like, I don't even know, like maybe like Futurama, and sort of it's like a bit quirky, but it's often very sort of dramatic. What I would liken it to mostly is probably the Walking Dead comic book, and I think that's the way that sort of sudden awful things happen sometimes to these characters, but there is moments of lightness and humour, more moments of lightness and humour in this, and bizarreness. You'll see like alien genitalia, and you'll see robots giving birth in like graphic detail. Really interesting stuff, that you've never seen before and never thought to see before. But it's all about the character development and the character drama, just like The Walking Dead. And like The Walking Dead comic, these people talk to each other like real people, like contemporary people that I would talk to. They swear, they make jokes, but it never seems like sort of cringy or shoehorned in to be like, oh, we're an edgy series. It all feels very true to life, or as true to life, as sort of TV-headed robots can be. Excellent series, lots of different characters that are all really interesting. You feel sympathetic towards the sort of most awful characters and the nicest characters, and I'd highly recommend this series to anybody. Really, I think it's a really great read. In terms of themes, it's very anti-war, anti-violence, sort of the cycle of violence, like The Last of Us and Last of Us 2 sort of have this sort of anti-violence and the way that revenge sort of begets more revenge. That's a great theme that I'm always excited to read about. In terms of music that I recommend listening to, it's really hard. I listen to a bit of like this epic sci-fi music playlist. Didn't always fit all the scenes, but mostly because this is, fairly high concept sci-fi / fantasy stuff. I think it works well, but I think pretty much anything is going to be safe with this. You could even just listen to, pop music or whatever. I often just read this with no music and just had the sounds of the house going on because I was so engrossed in the story that it didn't even matter. I didn't need to listen to anything. Have you read Saga? Are you going to read it? Have you read more? If you've read more, please don't spoil anything. I love this series, and I loved, reading it for the first time and not knowing anything that was going to happen. And I'd recommend anyone else to do that as well. Just pick it up and start reading. I guarantee you'll get engrossed. Anyway, that's it. I'll be having some more reviews in the new year. But Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching. Bye.